The London fog draped the city like a velvet curtain, curling around the cobblestone streets. Caleb Hart stepped out of his chauffeured car, his leather boots clicking against the pavement. He adjusted the brim of his cowboy hat, a slice of Tennessee grit in the heart of this ancient metropolis. The city buzzed with life, taxis honking, the distant chime of Big Ben, and the rustle of autumn leaves skittering across the ground. Caleb took a deep breath, steadying himself. He was here for work, to shoot a music video for his latest single, Missing You. But as he walked toward the set, his pulse quickened for reasons beyond the creative process. Today, he would meet Sophia Loren. The studio, a converted warehouse in Shoreditch, wore its history proudly. Brick walls tagged with graffiti, its interior transformed into a cinematic dreamscape. Soft lighting bathed the space in a golden glow, and the crew bustled about, adjusting cameras, testing sound equipment, and barking orders in crisp British accents. Caleb's boots echoed on the polished concrete floor as he approached the director, a wiry man named Oliver, known for his flair for the dramatic. "Caleb, mate," Oliver called, clapping him on the shoulder with a grin. "Ready to make some magic?" "Born ready," Caleb replied, his Tennessee drawl cutting through the noise. His eyes scanned the room, searching for her. Sophia Loren, the actress whose face had graced countless magazine covers and silver screens, was the star of this video. When Oliver had pitched casting her, Caleb had been floored. Sophia wasn't just an actress. She was an icon, a timeless beauty whose elegance seemed to defy the years. The thought of her bringing his song to life sent a thrill through him. As if on cue, the studio door swung open, and there she was. Sophia Loren glided in. Her auburn hair cascading over her shoulders, her emerald green dress clinging to her curves like it was woven by divine hands. The room seemed to pause, the crew stealing glances, momentarily forgetting their tasks. She moved with the grace of a dancer, her smile warm yet enigmatic, as if she held a secret only she could unravel. "Mr. Hart," she said, extending a hand as she approached. Her voice was smooth, laced with a hint of playfulness. "It's a pleasure." Caleb took her hand, his calloused fingers brushing against her soft skin. "Pleasure's all mine, ma'am," he said, tipping his hat slightly. "Call me Caleb." "Sophia," she replied, her eyes locking onto his. For a fleeting moment, the world shrank to just the two of them, a spark igniting in the air. Caleb felt his heart race. He was no stranger to beautiful women. His life in music had brought him into the orbit of many. But Sophia Loren was different. She was magnetic, her presence commanding yet effortless. Oliver clapped his hands, shattering the moment. "All right, lovebirds, let's get to work," he shouted, ushering them toward the set. The concept for the Missing You video was simple yet poignant. A man haunted by the memory of a lost love, wandering through a dreamlike cityscape as visions of her, Sophia, appeared and vanished. Caleb would play the wandering soul, while Sophia embodied the elusive muse, her every glance and gesture dripping with longing. As the cameras rolled, Caleb lost himself in the role. The lyrics of Missing You poured from his soul, each note carrying the weight of his own heartbreak. His marriage to Lila, the mother of his children, had ended in 2022 after decades together. The divorce had been amicable, but it left scars. Then came Rose, the young singer who had briefly been his wife. Their whirlwind romance had burned bright, but fizzled fast, culminating in divorce proceedings just months ago in October 2024. The pain of those losses lingered, and as he sang, he channeled it into the performance. Sophia, too, was a revelation. She moved through the scenes with an ethereal quality, her eyes conveying a depth of emotion that made the fictional love story feel achingly real. In one scene, she stood at the edge of a rooftop set, the London skyline glittering behind her, her dress billowing in the artificial wind. Caleb watched from below, his character, and perhaps a part of himself, mesmerized by her. When she turned to look at him, her gaze soft and searching, he forgot his lines for a moment, stumbling over the lyrics until Oliver called for a cut. "Caleb, you all right, mate?" Oliver asked, chuckling. "Yeah," Caleb muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. "Just got caught up in the moment." Sophia descended from the set, her heels clicking softly. "You're doing wonderfully," she said, her tone encouraging. "This song, it's beautiful. I can feel the heart in it." Caleb swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Means a lot coming from you," he said. You're something else out there." She laughed, a melodic sound that seemed to light up the room. "Flattery will get you everywhere, Caleb," she teased, before turning to confer with the costume designer. The day stretched on, each scene more intense than the last. Between takes, Caleb and Sophia found themselves gravitating toward each other. They talked about music, about London, about the strange alchemy of creating art. Sophia shared stories of her early days in Hollywood, her voice tinged with nostalgia and humor. Caleb, in turn, recounted tales from his Tennessee roots, his rise to fame, and the bittersweet journey of his career. There was an ease to their conversation, a rhythm that felt natural, as if they'd known each other for years. By the time the final scene was shot, a tender moment where Sophia's character reached out to Caleb's, only to fade into the mist. The crew was exhausted but exhilarated. Oliver declared it a wrap, and the studio erupted in applause. Caleb felt a pang of disappointment. The day was over, and with it, his time with Sophia. As the crew began packing up, Sophia approached him, a glass of champagne in hand. "To a job well done," she said, raising her glass. He clinked his bottle of water against it, grinning. "To making magic." They stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching the chaos of the set being dismantled. Then Sophia spoke, her voice soft. "You know, Caleb, I've been a lot of projects, but this one, it felt special. There's something about your music, your presence. It's raw, honest." Caleb felt a warmth spread through him, her words sinking deep. "I ain't never been good at hiding what I feel," he admitted. "And today, working with you, it's been one for the books." She smiled, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "Perhaps we'll work together again someday," she said. "Or at least share another glass of champagne." "I'd like that," he said, his voice low. "I'd like that a lot." As Sophia was whisked away by her assistant, Caleb lingered on the set, his mind replaying the day. He thought of her laughter, her grace, the way she seemed to understand the ache in his songs. For the first time in a long while, he felt a flicker of hope, a sense that maybe, just maybe, the future held something bright. Back at his hotel that night, Caleb sat by the window, the city lights twinkling below. He picked up his guitar and strummed a few chords, the melody of Missing You filling the room. But as he played, he found himself humming a new tune, one inspired by a woman who had walked into his life like a dream. He didn't know what the future held, whether he'd see Sophia again, whether their paths would cross beyond this fleeting moment. But for now, he let the music carry him, a cowboy in a foreign land, chasing a feeling he hadn't felt in years. The days that followed were a blur of interviews, rehearsals, and travel. The music video for Missing You was released to critical acclaim, with fans and critics alike praising the chemistry between Caleb and Sophia. Online forums buzzed with speculation. Was there something more between them? Caleb laughed off the rumors in interviews, but privately, he couldn't deny the pull he'd felt. Months later, as he sat in his Tennessee home, a package arrived in the mail. Inside was a note, written in elegant script, to Caleb, a true artist and a gentleman. Until next time, Sophia. Tucked alongside, it was a framed photograph from the set, capturing a moment between takes where they'd been laughing, their heads tilted close. Caleb smiled, tracing the edge of the frame with his finger. He didn't know if their paths would cross again, but he knew one thing for certain. Sophia Loren had left a mark on his heart, a melody he'd carry for years to come. And so, life went on. Caleb threw himself into his music, his children, his world. But every now and then, when the nights grew quiet and the stars burned bright, he'd think of London, of fog and laughter, and of a woman who, for one perfect day, had made him feel alive again.